time is up for the Biden administration. The deadline has passed to declassify intelligence related to any links between the Wuhan Institute of Virology and the origins of COVID-19. Now, June 18th, yesterday, was the final day that the president, really his administration, could act on the requirements laid out in the COVID origins bill that he signed earlier this year, 90 days ago. But while the Biden administration agreed to release the information, the intelligence community may decide releasing anything could possibly jeopardize U.S. security interests. This comes as the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken visited China over the weekend. So certainly some timing issues here, potentially. NewsNation's Joe Khalil joins us live in Washington. So, Joe, the deadline was yesterday. Declassified information on the origins of COVID. We were supposed to have the info. We don't have the info. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, the intel community blew right through that deadline, Blake. And look, this is important. Let's take a step back here. Every American has a stake in finding out what exactly caused the spread of COVID-19. Everybody wants to know what the origins of it actually were. So you're right. Congress set this 90-day deadline for the intelligence community, and President Biden tasked them, all of his intelligence agencies, with, look, get all of the data that you have, all of the bits of information that you're able to gather, and come up with the best assessment as to how you think the origins of COVID started. What happened here? Well, again, the deadline, as you mentioned, yesterday to produce that information over and declassify it. We still don't have a report. Now, Blake, my sources in Congress have been telling me that it's possible the weekend and the holiday may have some role in delaying this. Nonetheless, it is going to be important for us to actually get our hands on that information. We do know a couple of things from public reporting, even without this report. Over the last couple of months, we know the intel community has largely been split on the origins of COVID. As of February of this year, 4 separate intel agencies came to the conclusion that COVID most likely started from an animal naturally transferring the virus to a human in China. But at least 2 agencies, the FBI and the Department of Energy, they say that it's more likely that a lab accident in Wuhan sparked the pandemic. Now, neither of those conclusions was done with a whole lot of confidence. They were all either low or moderate confidence, Blake. And the reason that is because China has essentially put up this firewall to get information. We know they have not been cooperative. The Chinese government has not been transparent. They've been actively pushing back on international researchers coming in and trying to gather data to learn about the origins of COVID. That is a point that Congressman Jim Himes, the top Democrat on the House Intel Committee, made in his interview with you just a couple of days ago. Here's the point that he emphasized.
It's hard to figure out exactly how a pandemic started, exactly where. This is true of Ebola, it's true of HIV. It's particularly hard when the people who are in charge of all of the science, all of the jurisdictions are not being forthcoming. And of course, the Chinese have not been open and transparent about exactly what happened inside their country.
Now, Blake, there is one specific point where it seems all of the intel agencies agree on, and that is that COVID-19 was not created as a biological weapon intentionally by the Chinese government. We had heard that theory floated, but all the intel agencies and assessments seem to move away from that, saying there's no evidence at this point to support that theory. Blake.
All right, Joe Khalil live in Washington with the very latest. Joe, thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.